Nancy.
Give me a couple minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like phonetic alphabet, like.
Right? Yeah, no, you don't have to do it that
Okay.
way. You can just spell it out like that. They'll get it.
Gentlemen, can you talk to me, chit chat?
Yeah, go ahead and say something.
Okay.
Sound check.
Okay.
Microphone.
Sounds good.
Does anybody
Can you hear me?
Yeah, count to 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, now I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Thank you very
7.
much.
You got it.
Because they're both modulated.
Everybody else hearing it okay?
Okay, hang on.
They're working on some
Hey, Donna,
They're very overmodulated.
give me a white.
Is that good enough?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah, I don't know why it is. We're in a malt box.
TV update.
Hold on, keep it there.
Police update.
All right, thanks. Thank you.
Can't hold it any longer.
Okay, how is it now? You want to?
It's like holding a pen.
Do you guys
Right.
just want to talk again for a mic check?
Mic check?
Yeah, Vinny would put this board out in front of my face. No, I'm just kidding. You can
Put it back up again.
just leave it up for these guys. I'm just talking just to talk, Vinny. I'm
Yeah.
just not. I'm just saying stuff just so they can hear me. What about you? What'd you do today?
Okay.
I took my dog to the vet today, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, I
Is it
did.
all right?
Yeah, he's fine. He's fine. He had a little diarrhea.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, he's fine now.
That's good. What kind of dog?
I have a husky.
That's good.
Everybody
Okay.
level still okay, or?
I got a dog that when we initially got it, they said was a husky, a mix, but it's really a Carolina dog. But it whines and talks like a husky.
Yeah, my husky's he's just a puppy right now, so he's starting to whine, he's starting to talk, he's starting to growl at us, bark at us.
Audio should be fine now.
Yeah.
So
Okay, thanks, buddy.
My dog, he thinks he's human. He'll come in and he'll just talk to you, and you're just like, what?
yeah, my dog starts to like try to bark at you when he wants you to go outside and play with him. He
Right.
barks at you. He's like, hey, give me attention.
He's like, let's
Give me
go.
attention. Yeah, give me attention.
You ready?
No, it's right.
Does anybody need more time?
Here, bro?
You're good there.
Thank you. Cool.
Right, Andy.
Think everybody's ready? Okay. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. As the email announcement stated, we have Officer Aldo Nunez from the Maryville Precinct, as well as Commander Derek Elmore of the Maryville Precinct. Aldo was at the incident last Friday. He was actually injured by some ricochet. And then a lot of the other officers who were injured belong to the Maryville Precinct, so we've got their commander here to just talk about that experience. So I will go ahead and turn it over to them.
Have the best questions. Someone wants to start.
Well, can you guys just say and spell your names? He said your names, but can you just spell it?
Yeah, you bet. Go ahead.
My first name is Aldo, A-L-D-O. My last name is Nunez, N-U-N-E-Z.
First name is Derek, D-E-R-E-K. Last name is Elmore, E-L-M-O-R-E.
What are your ranks?
Officer.
I'm the commander out of the Maryville Precinct.
Officer, how you feeling?
Good, sir.
Can you tell us about your injury and what it was?
Yeah, I was struck on my right leg, just above my knee.
What position were you in? Let me back up. At what point in the standoff were you hit?
During the second volley of gunfire, I was taking the brother into custody. And as I attempted to take him into custody, we heard the second volley of shots, and it felt like I had gotten shot. I felt it in my leg, and we continued. We got the brother into custody. We walked him back to my patrol car, and then I kind of checked myself and made sure that I was okay. It seen it was just a little bit of shrapnel, and that was pretty much it. It continued on from there.
Have you been shot before?
No, sir.
So you said it felt like I got shot, but what specifically did it feel like?
I mean, kind of what everybody thinks. It like you feel pain. I mean, after you hear gunshots, you feel some pain in your leg, and it's just kind of hot. It's kind of what it felt like. And you know, the first thing that after you feel something that injures you after you hear gunfire is like, oh, I got shot. So.
What's the difference now, how you're feeling, and then looking back on it when it was actually going on? Did you realize, like, the magnitude of what was happening when it was going on, or were you just more in the moment, adrenaline kind of rushing? Can you kind of describe how you were feeling as all of this is taking place, not just for yourself, but for your fellow officers as well?
Definitely a lot of adrenaline. I can't speak for my fellow officers, but I know that they probably feel the same as me, saying that we just wanted to continue the mission, and we were there to help the community, and we were there to help the citizens, ensure that we could put an end to this gunfire that was threatening them. It was definitely a very trying time for all of us. But again, we all just felt like we needed to continue the mission. We obviously knew that there was officers injured, so we wanted to do what was right and try to get a bad guy behind bars, essentially.
You said you'd never been shot before.
No, sir.
Was this one of the most intense situations you've been a part of?
This was one of the most intense situations. We had a situation a few months back where there was a gentleman who was firing shots in the air and firing shots into the ground. So that kind of prepared a lot of us for this situation.
What were you thinking when you started hearing those gunshots?
That we needed to arrest that guy. We needed to get him behind bars, and I mean, I didn't really fear for myself. I was kind of in fear for the community and where those bullets were going, really.
Commander, can
So-
you talk us through? Go ahead.
So what I was going to say is one of the things that he won't tell you. So after he struck with the gunfire, him and at least 3-4 other people stayed there until the suspect was in custody and continued to work. They ignored their own pain and all that other stuff that was going on to make sure that they could complete the mission. I, as the commander out at Maryville, Australia Mountain, never been prouder of a group of people than I was that night and that day. Worried for the people that were struck by the gunfire, of course, but proud of the people that stayed in there to make sure that the mission was accomplished.
That baby situation was just so intense. How do you handle that from, I don't know, tactical situation? Rush in and get it, or?
So there's a lot of different things, and we're going to look at all those things. We're going to see what we did good out there, what we didn't do so well, and try to get better at it, right? So if there's another situation or next time, hopefully we'll be better prepared to handle that situation and think those things through all the way out. So
How did you handle it? Did you just rush it?
So I wasn't at the scene, so I know that they were eventually able to use bunkers and other things to go up and get the baby out of there.
Officer, since Commander, since you weren't there, you were there. Did you all know when that person was surrendering and laying the baby down? Did you know that there was still somebody with a gun that was inside ready to shoot?
No, sir, we didn't.
So was the risk lowered, I guess, in the minds of the officers on scene, given that someone was in the act of surrendering?
I can't speak for the officers, but what I can tell you is I know that our priority of life is pretty much, hey, you have a lot of fathers and mothers out there, and they were probably concerned for that baby, and they were more than likely, I'm assuming, wanting to rescue that baby and get him away from harm as soon as possible. Like I said, when you have a whole bunch of mothers and fathers out there on the scene attempting to do their job, and you hear a whole bunch of gunfire, when you see a baby, it almost changes things for you a little bit. So.
And Commander, having heard him say that they didn't know that there was still a gunman inside, would that have changed the approach to recover the baby and take in the surrendering, person of interest at that time?
Right.
Does that change how you? Do you then not go in? How does that change what you might have done?
Right, it may have slowed down the approach to recover that baby, right, to make sure that we could do it as safely as possible, to make sure that the baby was safe and make sure that the officers were safe as well. So it may have changed that. I don't know, again, because I wasn't at the scene. So it's tough. We have to take that look at those things. So we do what is a Monday night quarterback thing on it. We have to do that because we have to get better at it every time. But because I wasn't there, I don't know if that would have changed things or not. I would assume that it would have. I would assume that if I was there, that we would have done things differently.
The officers that did go in, they were not SAU, right?
That's correct.
So eventually SAU came and, after the second volley, as he mentioned, is that kind of how the...
Yeah, SAU was en route to the scene after the first volley when the officer was shot. so they were already there, so they were fairly close at the time. I believe shortly after the second volley, several officers that showed up, the whole unit wasn't there, but several officers had showed up, and the armor started to show up that they used eventually to help maneuver up to get the baby out.
Was there any time to ask the surrendering man, you know, is there still somebody in there, or was it just like that?
I believe it was quick. As he was taking,
You weren't there.
no, as he was taking him into custody, that's when, and the other officers went to get the baby, the volley went off. So he was still taking him into custody when he was struck by the shrapnel. So the other officers were actually at the scene. They were actually where the baby was at the time that we were taking the first person into custody.
And so, fair to say then that a little bit more knowledge up front would have helped save your officers. The Phoenix City Council is right now discussing the drone program, whether or not you guys can get a drone. And given that maybe more information would have saved more officers, or at least kept them from getting hurt, thank goodness there was no loss of life. Is it fair to say that a drone? Is that why the PD is asking for a drone, because that sort of thing helps?
So I'm not a part of the drone program or whatever's going on with that. That's something that City Council and them are dealing with and working with.
Any word on the status of the brother of the shooter, the ex-girlfriend?
I believe he was struck by gunfire as well during that exchange, and I'm not sure what's going on with him at this time. My focus since that time has been on the officers and their recovery, and the fact that now, thankfully, all of them are out of the hospital.
Can you talk to us about their spirits in general?
Yeah, amazing. Their spirits, all of them. Every time I went to see them, the prognosis was getting better and better from the doctors, and their spirits from the very beginning were, I would say, nothing short of amazing, because they were joking and jovial the whole time, even through the pain, which was incredible to see.
Hello, Officer Nunez. Take me through the process. I probably missed it. When did you get there? Was it after the two first officers got there? And when you got shot, what was it like? I mean, it's the first time that you got shot. So did you realize right away that you ended up getting shot? What was the feeling overall? What was going through your head?
So initially I arrived after we had heard the radio traffic after the first two officers had arrived. We knew that there was an officer who was struck by gunfire in the first volley. We got there as quickly as we could. I was riding in a two-man patrol unit, so me and my partner got there as quickly as we could, and then we kind of set up and contained the area. And then the brother steps out. He has the child in his hand. He walks backwards towards us, and we go to take him into custody. And that's when we heard the second volley. And that's when I got struck by shrapnel. Like I said at first, I felt I thought I had gotten shot. I didn't know what getting shot felt like, but it hurt, and I heard gunfire, so I was kind of taken back and like, oh, I might have gotten shot here. I did a quick kind of check for blood. Didn't really see any blood, so I continued on. We got the brother into custody. We walked him back to my patrol unit, and that's kind of where I did a more thorough check and found that it was just shrapnel.
Knowing that another officer had already gotten shot, were you afraid at some point?
I think we were all afraid, but it's a reasonable fear, I think, and we just wanted to do our job. We knew we were the ones who were out there. There is fear, but we all push past that, and we have to do our job for the community.
What's the conversation like with your fellow officers who also got injured? I'm in contact with one right now. He's super lighthearted, and we're all just kind of recovering and taking a step back and relaxing.
And very thankful that they're all safe.
I know you're in here in the station in front of superiors, but are there any of the 9 of you that are upset about the lack of knowledge that might have led to more of you getting hurt than had to?
I mean, I think they're just kind of like we are as far as us understanding that we went out there to do a job. We can Monday morning quarterback everything, and we will. We have a great department that
that kind of takes all the body-worn camera, and it's an ongoing investigation. So they are going to investigate it, and Monday morning quarterback and say, hey, these are the things that we did wrong, and these are the things that we did right. But I mean, at the time, I think that we all kind of made sound decisions as far as what we did tactically. I mean, do we want anybody to get hurt? Absolutely not. But does that kind of come with the job? Yes, it does come with the job. And unfortunately, some of us did get hurt, but we're glad that nobody in the community got hurt and nobody really lost their life.
You got hurt, but you still had to remain on scene before knowing that you were going to be transported to the hospital. How long did you stay there for? And what was it like knowing that you had to wait before everything was dealt with?
I didn't have to remain on scene. I chose to remain on scene. I knew I was struck. I knew I was hurt. And I stayed on scene just because once I checked, to see it was a little bit of shrapnel. I kind of felt like, hey, my brothers and my sisters are shot, and they're in the hospital right now. And I know if they weren't shot, they'd be here doing this job and attempting to take him into custody, just like if I was shot in the hospital. They would want the same thing for me. I didn't have to remain on scene. I chose to remain on scene and help out for the duration of the incident. After I had taken the brother back to kind of get debriefed, I stayed there and I helped the SAU negotiators after that.
How long did you wait for? Do you recall the time frame? How long were you out there for before you were?
Until the end of the incident, until SAU kind of cleared the house. So
You're injured. Are you on duty right now? Are you ready to go out there and work?
Yeah. It's a minor injury compared to, like I said, my brothers and sisters that got shot. So I'm ready to go back out and hit the streets when it's my time.
How old are you?
I am 31, sir.
A question for both of you. And 9 officers shot in one incident, and here we are less than a week later. Not only is everybody alive, everybody's out of the hospital. What even goes through your mind when you think about that?
Very thankful, right? Miracle that we had that many people actually struck by gunfire and all of them out of the hospital, like you said, less than a week later. It's nothing short of that. Count our blessings and are thankful for that, which is, like Aldo said earlier, which is why we owe it to those officers that were hurt to dive into that and then do better next time, right?
Commander Elmore, the last time I was in this room, it was specifically for one of your colleagues, Commander Carnicle, who was killed. And you said you were not on scene, but you're the commander of that Maryville unit there. So knowing that had happened, almost, I think it was 2020, almost a couple of years ago, and hearing that you had so many officers injured, did you think about Commander Carnicle and the idea that something like that may have happened again?
I think about all the officers who've got hurt, all the ones that I've known who've been injured in the line of duty. I've been on since 1992, and there's been several, right? And so all that stuff crosses your mind when you're responding to that scene. I initially went to the scene and then to the hospital. So yeah, all that crosses your mind. And then again, like I said, what we owe those officers and those officers that got hurt is to do a review of this and find out what went right, what went wrong, and then how we can be better next time.
Well, and what does that look like? Does that mean, debriefing everybody who was on the scene and then just sorting through all the reports? And then what is the review process?
Yeah. So for me internally, we're looking at as much of the information as we can. We're looking at the radio calls, the body-worn camera, talking to the people that were out there, debriefing them, getting that information, and then seeing what we could do better.
Officer Nunez, just technically, does that mean it was a bullet fragment that had ricocheted off something else?
Yes, sir.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can you walk perfectly fine at this point?
I can walk perfectly fine. I have full mobility. I'm up and around.
Wow.
Not
you said
injured.
when you are cleared to come back yet?
The doctor had cleared me there when I was at the hospital. So he cleared me there, and he said I was pretty much good to go.
Gotcha.
Officer Nunez, there's a lot of talk about Monday morning quarterbacking in here today. There was a baby on scene when all this happened. Regardless of protocol and everything else that you guys can talk about here today, does that change your thinking in that moment?
Like I said, there's a lot of mothers and fathers who are out there. I personally don't have children, but I can only imagine what they were going through, and those things do cross your mind, saying or having children and feeling like, hey, if this was my kid, how would I want to respond? So I don't know if it changed anything, but I can only imagine that they were probably going through some mental stuff as well. Having children of their own and seeing a little infant there and wanting to rescue it, obviously.
Commander, I'm not sure if this is your department or not, but have we come up with a motive or any idea why this happened?
I know that our investigative unit, our homicide unit, is looking into all that. I don't know the answers to any of that, though.
Officer Nunez, when you think of that day, and have you seen the video of officers helping each other kind of get away from that situation? Have you seen any of those videos?
I've seen a little bit of snapshots, yes, sir.
What do you think of seeing each other, arm in arm helping someone away from that?
I think it was a part of our job. It's one of our duties, and we're helping one of our brothers who got struck by gunfire get out of the way. I mean, it's nothing uncommon for us to do things like that, honestly, on the daily basis. If it was a citizen, we would have done the same thing for a citizen. It doesn't change. Him being an officer doesn't change how we responded there. We would have gotten anybody out of that scene if they were struck by gunfire. We just knew that it was a brother and he needed to help, and we needed to get him out of there as quickly as possible.
I know some people have written in our station just saying, just talking about that video, because it's just not something that we necessarily see all the time, but you're saying that I wouldn't say routine, but you've seen something like that before?
I haven't seen anything like that before. Obviously, this was one of the biggest scenes that I've ever been on, but I'm pretty sure that when we're called to do something like that, we will do it. It's just who we are as people. Any police officer would.
All the officers, sir, were Maryvale?
No, there were a couple officers from both Mountain View Precinct, and we had a K-9 officer who's part of our tactical support bureau that was injured as well.
Do you know what type of weapon he was using?
I do not know. I know that he had a handgun and a rifle, but I don't know which weapon he used when.
You don't know what piece of shrapnel they dug out of your leg?
Actually, I dug it out, but yeah.
What was that like?
It was only superficial, so a little bit of tweezers, and that's pretty much the end of it. I don't know.
Sounds easy.
Yeah, I don't know what the extent of it was or what caliber it was. It was a very small piece of shrapnel. I did know that it was a bullet. It was kind of shiny, so that's as much as I knew about it.
You have to hand it over, or is it a souvenir? Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, it's going to be handed over for evidence.
Was it rapid fire, or was it like semi-automatic weapon shooting?
I mean, it seemed pretty rapid at the time.
Officer, you mentioned that you were not the first one there shot, so I presume, in your squad car, hearing this call, knowing you're going to something very serious. Is there any way to describe the adrenaline when you hear that and you know what you are going towards?
I think initially, and again, I can't speak for my partner, but we were riding two-man, and we kind of looked at each other and we're like, hey, we need to go to this. There's an officer who's shot, there's an officer who's down, and we need to go to this right now. And we need to help out as much as we can. And I think that was kind of our main priority at that time, was trying to get there as quickly as possible to that officer and ensure that he's safe and everybody else is going to be safe.
I think maybe one more question.
Where did it hit you again?
It hit me on the right thigh, just above my knee.
All right. We appreciate you guys coming out. We appreciate all the outpouring of support from the community. I know these officers are ready to get back to work, and thank you again for coming out here and supporting us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Nice to meet you. Hold on. I went to
I'll bring her back.